The Low Desert Arizona garden in May is all about getting your garden ready for those hot temperatures that are coming. In today's video, I'm going to give you the things that you need to do to get your garden ready. We're going to talk about what to do in your low desert vegetable, herb, fruit tree, and flower garden. Stay tuned to the end and I'll share a garden tour of what's growing in my garden right now. But if we haven't met before, my name's Angela from Growing in the Garden, and I love to share garden inspiration and helpful tips so you can be successful in your own garden. The impending heat brings with it important gardening tasks. Mulching, watering correctly, and providing shade for those plants that need it are three of the most important things you can do to help your garden survive the upcoming heat. Let's talk first about mulching. I think I talk about mulch every month, but it's especially important during the hottest months of the year. That 3 to 6 inch layer of mulch cools the soil just a little bit and provides some insulation for those roots and for those plants. You're also providing organic matter to the soil and you're reducing the amount of moisture lost. Provide mulch everywhere you can around your garden, in your vegetable beds, to your fruit trees, even your landscape trees and shrubs will all benefit from mulch. The next important thing to think about is watering. During today's video, I will give you some watering guidelines for different plants. Follow good watering principles of watering deeply and less often to encourage those roots to go nice and deep. Water is a valuable resource and we want to make sure we're not wasting it. It's important not to overwater or underwater your plants this month. Both can be very harmful for plants. Check your watering system and timer. This is crucial. In previous months, plants may have gotten by with irregular or infrequent watering, but now that temperatures are heating up, regular watering is essential for your plants. Run your system, check all of your emitters, and make sure that they are working properly before the heat of summer comes. In my own garden, I will be running my garden grids probably every 3 days. As temperatures are consistently over 100 degrees, I may even be watering every other day. How often you water and how long you water is really dependent upon the type of watering system you have and your soil. Each time you water, water deeply so you can penetrate that entire root zone, and then let the top inch or so dry out before you water again. Finally, find ways to provide shade for your garden. This may mean planting in an area that receives shade naturally, or it may mean providing additional shade to your garden. Wondering what to shade in your garden? Here are a few guidelines about which plants need some shade. Wondering which percentage of shade cloth to use if you're going to add shade cloth to your garden? Here are some of my favorite heat-loving vegetables that don't mind full sun. A lot of those spring-planted vegetables and fruits are beginning to be harvested. It's a great month for tomatoes here in the low desert. Keep an eye on that summer squash. It grows quickly. If you're finding that fruits are withering and not being pollinated, you may need to hand pollinate that squash. Simply transfer pollen from the male blossom to the female blossom. We often harvest our garlic during the month of May. Wait for several leaves to die back and dig up one to see if it's ready. If it's ready, go ahead and harvest. If you leave garlic in the ground too long, those cloves can begin to separate and they don't store as well once they separate. Store your garlic in a shady, dry spot for about 2 weeks to let all that energy from the remaining leaves go into the cloves. Use some and then save the largest bulbs to plant again in the fall. Itoy onions are also ready to harvest this month. After harvesting, store in a dry, shady spot for about a week or two, and then store in a dry, cool location. Again, use some and save some to plant in the fall and to share with friends. Onions are also harvested this month. As you notice, those tops begin to flop over. That's your first sign that the onions are beginning to be ready. At that point, cut back on watering and leave those onions in the ground for another week or so. To harvest the onions, pull on the stems, but if they don't come out easily, use a shovel to dig them up. If you're noticing your onions are bolting during the season, harvest them and use them right away. Bean harvests are going on this month. Harvest beans often and harvest them when they're young for best flavor. Picking beans often encourages more production. This is an especially important time to spend some time in your garden every day. There's a lot going on in the garden. There's things to harvest. There are bugs coming to the garden. Spending time in your garden, picking off damaged leaves, checking under leaves for bugs will help you stay on top of problems while they're small and easy to manage. Believe it or not, if you want to have a monsoon planting of tomatoes, May is a great month to start those seeds indoors. There are several crops that really don't mind the heat, and those are the things that we can plant this month. Plant from seed or transplant amaranth, Armenian cucumbers, cantaloupe, okra, Malabar spinach, roselle hibiscus. To plant from seed this month is black-eyed peas, edamame, and yard-long beans. May is also a great time to plant sweet potatoes here in the low desert. It's sad to see the end of the season for all of the beautiful cool season flowers. Take notes of what grew well and what you liked, and also what you saw growing in someone else's garden that you would like to plant next year. Set reminders to plant those things this fall. Sunflowers are one of my favorite crops to grow. Here in the low desert, we can plant them from February all the way through July. As those cool season annuals finish up, save seeds from your favorites. As your warm season annuals are beginning to grow, thin them so that the plants aren't too crowded. Simple tip for zinnias, similar to basil, is to cut it back when it's young, and that encourages a bushier, fuller zinnia plant rather than just a long, spindly zinnia plant. Keep all those flowers deadheaded to encourage more blooms. As temperatures heat up, flowers in containers should be fertilized about every 2 weeks to encourage blooms during the month of May. Roses have been beautiful this spring. As the blooms begin to slow down and finish as temperatures heat up, you can hold off on fertilizing those roses through the hottest months of the year. There are still several beautiful flowers to add to your garden this month. Here are a few of my favorite: Angelonia, Coreopsis, Cosmos, 4 o'clock, Impatiens, Globe Amaranth, Lisianthus, Marigold, Tithonia, Salvia, Sunflower, Vinca, and Zinnias. One thing I love about May are the peach harvests. Peaches are one of my favorite fruits fresh from the garden. The early ripening varieties of peaches are often ready to harvest this month. There may be some apricots that are ready to harvest this month as well. Keep an eye on your fruit. Unfortunately, the birds will probably tell you when that fruit is ripe. If you have a lot of issues with birds, the easiest thing I've found is just to pick my fruit a day or 2 early and let it ripen inside. Water your established fruit trees once every 3 to 5 days. May in Arizona also means blackberry and mulberry and strawberry harvests. Don't let your strawberries dry out this month. They may need to be watered every day depending on the type of soil you have. Mulch those strawberries really well. Provide support for your growing grapevines. You're probably seeing fruit begin to develop this month. Check the undersides of leaves for grape skeletonizer eggs. If found, pick those leaves off and destroy the egg. Spraying a BT solution can also help if you miss some of those eggs. Grapevines will need a deep watering about once every 5 days. During the month of May is a great time to fertilize your citrus. It's one of those times that we talk about Valentine's Day, Memorial Day, and Labor Day. Don't fertilize your other fruit trees this month, and a little bit of pruning inside your citrus tree is okay, but be careful not to expose bark to the sunlight until after summer. Established citrus trees should be watered once every 7 to 10 days, again to a nice deep depth of 2 to 3 feet. Keep that fallen fruit underneath your citrus trees and your fruit trees picked up. Prune suckers, which are shoots growing straight up below the bud union on citrus and other fruit trees. May is a great month for herbs here in the low desert. Basil is back in the garden and basil harvests are beginning. It's not too late to plant basil. Add more basil to your garden. Keep your basil cut back to ensure full, nice basil and plenty of harvest. May is a great month to feed the bay laurel that you have growing in your garden. It's also a great month to harvest some of those leaves, dry those leaves. A lot of those perennial herbs that we pruned a couple of months ago have really filled in. The lemon balm and sage and oregano should be growing really well and enjoying the nice warm temperatures. May is also a good time to feed a lot of those summer-loving herbs. Use an organic fertilizer and water well before and after application. Take some time this month to record what things went well in your spring garden, which varieties of vegetables, flowers, and herbs that you liked. Also take note of whatever you would like to do differently. Experience is the best teacher in the garden. Take the time to prepare your garden for the hotter temperatures. Hopefully this video has given you a few ideas of how to do just that. Thank you so much for watching.